What's next for the Twins in improving this roster before opening day on April 7th? On today's episode of Lockdown Twins.
You are Locked On Twins, your daily Minnesota Twins podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome to the Locked On Minnesota Twins podcast. Today is Friday, March 11th, and I'm your guys' host, Nash Walker. Been running at Twins Daily for over 2 years, been hosting this podcast for over 2 years, and I want to thank you for making Locked On Twins your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Well, what's next for the Twins? So, if you listened to yesterday's episode, or if you haven't, I'll fill you in. I talked about Carlos Rodón a little bit. I mentioned an ideal offseason scenario after the lockout for the Twins on yesterday's episode, and it was signing Carlos Rodón and trading for Frankie Montas. That was the ideal scenario because trading for Montas and Basser, Montas and Sonny Gray, and Luis Castillo is going to cost you a haul in prospects. I thought the most ideal situation was they sign Rodón for money and they trade for Frankie Montas, who I think is probably the best target they can get on the trade market. So that was the ideal situation. The ideal situation's dead. Carlos Rodón signed with the San Francisco Giants today for $44 million over 2 years. He has an opt-out after his first season. I think he's going to make $22 million or $22.5 million this year. I thought it was about right. If I'm signing Carlos Rodón, though, I'm looking for a 3-year, $45 million deal. That's what I was targeting because of the health. But I think because of the money on the books, like I'd rather pay him $45 million over 3 years than $44 million over 2, because you need that extra money to go get other guys and make other additions. If the Twins were to sign Carlos Rodón for that $44 million, that's a large chunk of what they have remaining in payroll. So I would have favored something different if it was the Twins, but I thought Rodón was a great target for the Twins. I wasn't shy about that. I thought he made a ton of sense as a high upside play. And if your plan is we're going to have a bunch of young starters coming up, filling innings later in the year, what if you get 100 great innings from Carlos Rodón? Even if he gets hurt, even if he's not right, you have to shut him down a couple of times. If he gives you 100 great innings like he was last year, basically, if he gives you last year, he's worth $22 million tenfold. Like, he's so valuable because he's so good. He's so dominant when he's on. And that wasn't the case for a lot of his career, but it was last year. Certainly for Carlos Rodón. Doesn't matter. He's a Giant. So you look at the free agent market. I'm going to pull this up. If you're watching on YouTube, you'll be able to see this. If not, I will read these to you. But I want to look at what's left because it's whittled. And Clayton Kershaw's off the board as well. So the final two, thanks to our friend Aaron Gleeman in his top 25, the final two in the top 10 in Kershaw and Rodón off the board. So what do the Twins have left to choose from? Let's look at it here. Starting pitchers on the free agent market. Again, thank you to Mr. Gleeman for his rankings over at The Athletic. Yusei Kikuchi, former Mariner, 95-mile-an-hour fastball, left-handed, up and down, can be dominant at times when his velocity's there. Other times gets knocked around, can give up a lot of homers. He's the best remaining free agent starter. Zach Greinke is 2. Michael Pineda is 3. So you catch my drift here. Yusei Kikuchi has never had a season where he's above average as a pitcher. Zach Greinke is, I think, 40 and really faded down the stretch last year and was throwing like 86 at the end of it, I believe. And then Michael Pineda as well. He was great for the Twins, in his time, but he's also getting up there. He also needs to be managed in terms of innings, and he doesn't have the cleanest bill of health either. Not a ton of upside with Pineda, 90, 91 with the fastball, as we know. We know Michael Pineda, and there's not a whole lot there to get excited about. Now, would I take Michael Pineda back in this rotation? Absolutely. I would definitely take Michael Pineda back in this rotation. But at that point, are you better off just handing the reins to Josh Winder right out of opening day and seeing what he can do and not filling one of those rotation spots with Michael Pineda? That's kind of been the point. If you're going to add significant pieces, add substantial pitchers to the rotation. Otherwise, just let I'm going to head over here if you're watching on YouTube. Just let the young guys start in the rotation, to be honest. At that point, I don't know why you wouldn't. So you look at the free agent market, there's not a whole lot left. We knew that during the lockout. We knew that before the lockout. And now that Rodon and Kershaw are off the board, it's really slim pickings out there. I think Kikuchi would be decent on if the contract would matter there for him, like maybe 8 to 10 million a year for 3 years on Yusei Kikuchi, because there's some upside for sure in that fastball. But generally, I shy away from lefties in this division. I shy away from lefties in the league. And you might roll your eyes at that. Like, how can you shy away from lefties? You like Carlos Rodón. I like good lefties, but I think it's easier to get away with it as a righty when you are facing such right-handed heavy lineups in Chicago with the White Sox, the Angels in the American League, the Yankees with Aaron Judge, Giancarlo Stanton, and the rest of DJ LeMahieu and Gleyber Torres and all these guys, all the right-handed hitters in that lineup as well. So I'm not crazy about it. And you look at like the Red Sox with Xander Bogaerts. There are going to be great right-handed hitters always, but I just felt like over the last couple of years, it's been even more amplified in that way. So like to shy away from the left-handers if you can, and unless they are, 95 plus with the fastball. Like J Happ last year is a great example. Signing J Happ, wasn't crazy about that at the time, partially, and actually a lot of it was because he was a soft tossing lefty. And the White Sox host came on this podcast, Herb Lawrence and Chris Tannehill, and they were like, why would the Twins sign J Happ? Like, the White Sox are going to crush J Happ. And guess what? We got to the point where the Twins had to skip him in the rotation when the White Sox were on the schedule because they beat him so bad. That's the point it got to with J Happ. And I'm not saying Yusei Kikuchi is J Happ. I think he has much higher upside. He's younger. I think there's more to work with there. But generally, I will go after the right-handers. Let's get into trade targets and other free agents on the shortstop front, trade targets on the shortstop front. After this word from Built Bar, Built Bar is the best tasting protein bar ever. You already know this, but have you tried the Puffs? If you haven't, you're missing out on one of Built Bar's best tasting flavors. Puffs are the first ever protein infused marshmallow. They're fluffy, they're marshmallowy. They're not just a protein bar. They're a treat, and they're covered in 100% real chocolate. Puffs are a fan favorite with some incredible flavors: yummy cinnamony churro, coconut marshmallow, banana cream pie. So good. These are going to be your new favorite. Built Bars are not just delicious, though. Built Bars are actually healthy, and they are all about the taste, but they're also about the health. 4 grams of net carbs in most Built Bars, 130 calories. You look at a candy bar, usually 240 calories, 30 grams of sugar, dozens of net carbs. The better choice is Built Bar, and it's better tasting. Plus, right now, you go to Built.com, use promo code LOCKED15 and get 15% off your order. Use promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. Looking back at my list here, I will move over once again for you YouTube folks. Trade targets. We've talked about these guys a ton, and this is the only way the Twins are going to add a frontline starter. So I'm telling you, the only way they can make a significant addition in the rotation is via trade. When I say significant, I mean frontline. And when I say significant for a shortstop, that means like a 4 or 5 win shortstop. That doesn't mean, trading for Paul DeYoung. Like, that's not a significant addition to me. But on the trade front, number 1 target, I think, is Frankie Montas. The number 2 is Luis Castillo. Chris Bassett, I have 3. Shaman, I have 4. Sonny Gray, 5. Talking a little bit about these guys. Frankie Montas, electric young starter in Oakland. I think you can make a few tweaks with him. Throw that slider more, throw that sinker less, and I think you might unlock a little bit more from Montas and have him take that next step. I think he's 29, going to be 29, I believe, this season. So really like Frankie Montas. Couple seasons of team control left, pretty cheap, going to cost a little bit. A's are looking to move for sure, move their guys. So I think he would definitely be available. Luis Castillo is very similar. 2 years of team control. Cincinnati also rumored to be moving guys. I think Castillo, there's a good chance he's gone this offseason. But when you talk about just electric, like Luis Castillo, his changeup's his best pitch. It's like a 90-mile-an-hour wiffle ball changeup. Also throws 100. Also throws a decent slider. Not great, but a decent slider. Again, I think the Twins could tweak him and turn him into a three-pitch plus weapon there. 3+ pitches for Luis Castillo. If you're trading for Montas or Castillo, you need them to take the next step because that's what it's going to cost in prospect capital. The Twins have put themselves in this box. They have. They're going to have to spend in terms of prospects if they want to go up get a frontline starter. Chris Bassett, I have 3rd, 1 year of team control left, more on the salary. I think he actually makes the most sense for this team right now overall. if you look at ERA over the last 2 years in the American League, Chris Bassitt, lowest ERA in the American League. I think it's minimum 200 innings. Garrett Cole, I believe, is second. Chris Bassitt is first. He's a lanky starter. He throws like 6 pitches, throws decently hard, a lot of ground balls, sometimes can hit guys. I think he led the league in hit by pitches last year, but very, very good. Like just solid every fifth day. Chris Bassitt is at least a number 2 starter to me. I think he's very, very good. And that's 1 year of team control at a higher salary. You know, Oakland wants to get that off the books. So I think he's going to cost a whole lot less than Montas and Castillo. He's also older than those two by a decent amount. Sean Manaea is 4, another Oakland A's starter. So we talk about basically the whole Oakland rotation being up for grabs here. Sean Manaea, we've talked about as well, left-handed, 90, low 90s with the fastball, decent changeup, solid. Like, going to give you a high 3s ERA. Every fifth day, again, going to be solid. 1 year left of team control. I think he's a little bit more expensive than Bassitt. Probably would cost a similar figure in a trade. Sean Manaea I like too. I'd be good with Bassitt, Manaea. At this point, we'd be good with any frontline or even mid-rotation starter, right? But I like Bassitt. I think Bassitt makes the most sense for them overall. Montas Castillo would be that'd be like a huge addition. They'd be like, wow. Chris Bassitt, I think, would be a sneaky good addition for the Twins. And then Sean Manaea, he makes a ton of sense as well. I like the 1 year team control aspect. Gives you a chance to compete this summer. You're also not locked up long-term into these guys in case something does happen, in case a prospect emerges and these guys fall off. They are free agents after next season. So I like that. Sonny Gray is 5th. I think he has 2 years or 1 year and an option, perhaps, left on his deal. Sonny Gray, we know the career. He's been really solid. Wasn't great for the Yankees, but has had a really, really nice career. And when he's on the mound, and he hasn't been healthy a whole lot, but when he's on the mound, Sonny Gray is at least a number 2 as well. So when you look at these top 5, and 4 are right-handed, which I like, as I said, they're at least a 1 or a 2, I think. I think Manaea is probably a 3. And then when I say that, I mean in a good rotation, like in a playoff caliber rotation. I think Montas is a 1, Castillo is a 1, potentially could be aces if they take the next step. Chris Bassitt, I think, is a borderline 1-2 on that line. Sean Manaea, I think, is a 3, and then I think Sonny Gray's a solid 2. So I like all 5 of these guys. I think they all make a ton of sense. They're going to cost prospect capital. Again, the Twins have put themselves in that box, but I'd be happy with any of them coming, or a multiple would be great. Like if it's Bassitt and Sonny Gray, that would be awesome. If you ask me today, same prospect haul, do you want Chris Bassitt and Sonny Gray, or do you want Frankie Montas? Same prospect. I would take Frankie Montas, but I would not complain about the Gray Bassitt package deal either, because I think you can trade for Montas and then sign Pineda, and all of a sudden you have a much sturdier rotation, especially if Montas does take that next step. Let's look at shortstops after these words from Bet Online. Bet Online, it's that time of year. Selection Sunday is Sunday. From all the latest odds, contests, and player props, betonline.net is the number 1 source for all your sports betting needs and info. BetOnline remains the best spot for all your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. And it's not just basketball. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sporting wagering information needs, including live betting and your favorite Vegas casino games. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. BetOnline, where the game starts. This time of year, man, like if you're not making brackets, you're not playing at betonline.net, you're missing out. March Madness, it's not just that either. They got hockey, they got futures. Major League Baseball is coming back. They're going to have everything you need. betonline.net. Thank you so much for all your support of the Locked On Podcast Network and of Locked On Twins. Head over to betonline.net and check out all they have to offer. It is outstanding. Back to my nifty little list. Shortstops, best remaining shortstops: Carlos Correa, Trevor Story, Jonathan Villar. Andrelton Simmons signs with the Cubs today. We like to see that. Andrelton Simmons will not be a Twin in 2022. I think just too many bad vibes linked to him, like just a bad season. And when I think about the season, I think about Simmons because he wasn't a part of the teams before. I say the same as Colomé, and they didn't perform well at all. So they are linked to a horrific season. And if I had a choice, I would take a little bit less production from a Jose Iglesias overall and just not bring back Andrelton Simmons, because I just think the vibes are off. I just think the vibes are not great. The fan base is overall, I don't think, liked him very much and didn't enjoy watching him hit. I certainly didn't. He was a hole in this lineup, an absolute hole. There's nothing more I hate more. There's nothing I hate more than a hole in a lineup, like an actual hole. And there's a fine line between you're a great defender and you're a decent hitter and you're a great defender and you can't hit. Like you can't hit. You're a hole. If you have first and second, it's like a pitcher. It is very similar for a lot of the summer to having a pitcher in your lineup. And that's such a disadvantage because as we talk about all the time, the bar for shortstops offensively has raised above second baseman as guys are more athletic. Guys are more guys are sticking at short, I feel like, and they're performing at the plate. You got to hit if you're a shortstop. Andrelton, maybe a Hall of Famer because he's he's a generational defender. And even last year, we saw he made some amazing plays for the Twins, but it's just not worth the bat. He's just not worth the bat. Correa story, VR. I don't know about VR as a shortstop. I don't really think he's a shortstop, more of a utility guy. Trade targets, Gene Segura, Paul DeJong, Nick Ahmed. So Carlos Correa is not coming to Minnesota. I hate to break it to you. Trevor Story would be amazing. And I've mocked lineups with Trevor Story, and it looks tremendous. Again, for someone like him, I would go longer at a lower average annual value for someone like Trevor Story because you do have to make other additions. With that being said, you're probably not adding a bunch of salary if you do trade for a starter. So you gotta combine them in some way. You can't trade for everybody this offseason, contrary to what the Twins have looked like they're doing so far. You can't trade for everyone. You got to combine a trade with a free agent signing or two. Like it's just that you have to do it. Otherwise, you're trading away way too much in my mind. Unless they're lower level, I guess it's fine. But I think Trevor Story, very similar to Josh Donaldson 2 off seasons ago. Ton of sense at this point. There's no one else you can spend your money on. The Twins are at 91, 92 million in payroll. They're going to get up to 125, 130 at the minimum, I would think. So you don't have anyone else to spend it on. They could just spread it around. I think that's probably most likely. But if Trevor Story's still sitting there, like no one wants Trevor Story at the price, I think the Twins could potentially swoop. Just keep an eye on it. I'm not saying it's likely at all. I'm just saying keep an eye on it. I would love Trevor Story. I think he's great. And I think he would absolutely mash at Target Field, even though his home road splits are not great. We know that that's been debunked times before. DJ LeMahieu is a great example. Nolan Arenado's fine in St. Louis, people. He's fine. Trevor Story would be fine. Outside of Coors Field, he's a stud. He's a potential 5-6 win player. Combining his defense. I know at times his defense was shoddy last year, but again, I think people, when they're turned off to guys like stars who are coming off bad seasons, you got to remember, like you're buying low at that point. You're not going to get Carlos Correa coming off an MVP level season. Like the only reason the Twins would be in the race for Trevor Story, the only reason the Twins were in the race for Josh Donaldson is because of his flaws, because he's old, because of his calves, because of the 4-year commitment. It's the only reason they got him. The only reason they would get Trevor Story is because other teams think that he's slipping defensively and that he's not going to hit outside of Coors. So that's why they'd be in the running, and you just accept those risks in exchange for the potential that he's great for you and that he's a game changer offensively. We know they need pitchers, but they also need a shortstop. Trade targets, Gene Segura is my number 1 trade target. I think he makes a ton of sense for the Twins. Making a little bit more in salary than I would like, but if the Phillies ate a little bit, he's not going to cost a whole lot in prospect capital. I really like Gene Segura for sure as a high contact on base guy. You know, not great on base, but going to hit for a high average, going to put the ball in play. And I think the Twins could use that a little bit in their lineup. Nick Ahmed, another trade target, outstanding defender, kind of similar to Simmons in that way. Light bat, outstanding defender. But again, there's that line. If you're a great defender and you'll be like right around league average as a hitter, it's a good player. I'll take you all day long. Like that's a 4 or 5 win player, and that's Simmons and Ahmed in their best years. So this is what we're looking at, and the Twins need relievers too. But the list is so long. Like I'm not even going to try to guess who they're going to sign for the bullpen. We'll just break that down when it happens. I have no idea because they'll go down the list. They'll find somebody you never heard of at times. Juan Minaya was signed to a minor league deal today. I liked him last year. It's not a huge signing by any means, but I'm glad he'll be back and pitching for the Saints and probably will be up for the Twins at some point again in 2022. So that's what we're looking at here for free agents, trade targets. Let me know what you think in the comments. They got work to do, and if they don't, they deserve a lot of criticism. There's no question. Thank you for making Locked On Twins your first listen every day. We're free and available on all podcast platforms. I'll make your second listen Locked On MLB. Paul Francis Sullivan, please call him Sully, brings you his unique perspective on the major leagues past and present. It's free and available wherever you get your podcast. Next week, hopefully it moves to talk about. Can't wait for that. We're going back to 5 days a week later this month on the show. So buckle up, man. Go Twins.